Today, I want to talk about what I think one of the most underrated parts of Hyrox, and that is the Hyrox team relay. So just to quickly break down what the relay is for anyone who's not familiar with it, you do it in teams of four. It's the same race, same order, but unlike the doubles where you're out there together running and splitting up the stations however you want, you go one at a time and you do two runs and two stations each. And those, it's one run with one station, and then later on you can do one run with your second station. It is absolutely an awesome time. It's a very fun event, great environment, really cool to be doing it as a team. And just one other little minor detail in the way the event works is that you won't necessarily know exactly if you're going to be doing in a format where you run 1 kilometer and then do the station, or as it was in Hyrox Ottawa, where I recently competed, it was closer to a 700-meter run and then the station, followed by a 300-meter run. And let me tell you, that last 300-meter run every time was absolutely brutal. So I want to quickly talk about the differences between the relay and a more traditional Hyrox race being, singles or doubles. So number one, it's two very, very different energy systems. So in the relay, you're looking at efforts that are about 10 minutes long, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, versus, the average Hyrox solo or doubles time is probably somewhere closer to an hour and a half. I'd say most people probably fall in the range of 1 hour to 2 hours. So in the relay, you're looking at, a very VO2 max dependent effort, super high output, whereas the more traditional Hyrox, it's more about a sustained threshold effort. Uh, and the way that the body comes up with the energy to go through those kinds of efforts are very different, which is of course something that you're going to want to factor into your training. A few other differences is that you're probably not taking any breaks during the stations. You're just working straight through. So for example, on the sled push, I think it's pretty common, even, the absolute top athletes, you look at the sleds, they're taking quick breaks here and there. Uh, you know, wall balls, again, pretty common that you're going to be taking a break there. Um, Whereas in the relay, it's just you're grinding through it as much as you can. It hurts a lot, but the body is generally able to come up with the effort that you need for that short period of time. And again, touching on what I said earlier about the setup where you might have to run after doing the station. Um, your body, the pain you're going to be feeling in your legs after doing a station absolutely all out is uh, quite intense compared to what you're feeling in the main race. Uh, but at the same time, you may not have to run much at all after completing your station in the relay. You might be able to basically exit your station and run a couple meters and do the handoff. But again, this depends on how the relay is set up. So I want to look a little bit about, how to train for the relay specifically. And what we want to be doing here is focusing on shorter efforts. So I think somewhere more in the range of 4 to 10 minutes where we're really targeting that VO2 max system. A really great traditional example of this that isn't necessarily Hyrox specific would be the Norwegian 4x4, where it's 4 minutes of not quite all out effort, but very hard effort with 4 minutes rest in between, and you're doing 4 rounds of that. And your training here, it doesn't have to be race specific. There's lots of different ways to do this. I mean, the traditional Norwegian 4x4, that could be something, where you're just running or on the bike. But you could also do, these 4 to 10 minutes efforts that are some combination of running and a station, as as you'll be doing in the race, or you could break it up a couple ways. You could do more than two different modalities. You can do a bit of run, bit of ski, bit of sled push, something like that. Lots of different ways to do it. And there probably is, of course, some benefit to doing the exact race format. The specificity there is going to be a bit of a benefit. And I will also add here that doing, essentially a full race sim where you do your, one station or one run plus station, rest for a while, and then one run plus station is probably going to be a lot more sustainable to recover from versus doing a full Hyrox solo or double sim. But at the same time, you do want to keep it at least somewhat under control so that you're not, absolutely burned out and compromising yourself for future training sessions. And, these shorter efforts of 4 to 10 minutes, you can do a couple in a workout, and you can probably do that a couple times per week. If training for the relay is your main goal and the focus of most of your quality sessions. Now we'll dive into what to do if you're training for both, a traditional Hyrox singles or doubles and a relay at the same time. But I do want to add a couple more quick points here on specifically how to train. So as I mentioned earlier, you won't know the exact setup of the relay until pretty shortly before the race. So as I said, you could be doing 1K run and then station, or you could be doing something more like a 700-meter run, station, 300-meter run. And as I mentioned, it's a very different feeling on your legs, on your body, having to run after doing that station. So if you're going to be training, doing the specific race movements, I would recommend training both of these formats, as you won't necessarily know which one you're getting into. Now, if you are training for, as I said, a traditional Hyrox race and a relay at the same time, number one thing you're going to want to do here is decide which of these two races is the priority. I would imagine that for most people in this situation, your solo or doubles race is probably going to be the priority. But once you've decided what the priority is, this is how you're going to want to prioritize your quality training sessions. So if your solo race is the priority, then most of your quality sessions are going to be that more long threshold type effort, versus if the relay is your priority, then you're probably going to want to be doing more of this VO2 max work and then less of this threshold work. So my personal recommendation here would be, assuming that you have the time in your training schedule, I would dedicate one training session per week to the secondary race, in most cases, that being the relay. And then the rest of your quality training sessions should be for your main priority. So, the way that probably looks like is, maybe 2 or 3 sessions a week that are quality sessions for your main race, your Hyrox solo or doubles, and then maybe one quality session per week that is more geared toward that VO2 max Hyrox relay kind of effort. And just to give you a bit of an idea of what I was doing when I was training for Ottawa, where I did solo and the relay, I would do, one quality tempo run per week, and then one big Hyrox circuit per week. And then my third quality session would be generally going over the race, doing a bit of a race simulation for the relay with my friends. Not necessarily with the handoffs, but we would all do our one run and one station together at the same time. And then we would take a bit of a break in between, probably somewhere around 10 minutes, and then do our second run plus station together at the same time. And that worked really well for us. It was a great training opportunity. We had a fun time doing it together, which is one of the biggest things about the relay. It's a really fun experience. It's a lot of fun to do that training with your friends. A couple final little tips here. In terms of race day, be ready for some chaos. Especially in Ottawa, they packed a lot of people into a very small area for the relay transition zone, and everybody's itching to get going, get out on the track. Uh, and once you do get out on the track, there is a lot of people running fast. So you want to be careful that you're not running into other people. But it was, as I mentioned, a very fun time. Finally, if you're looking to maximize your performance, I would recommend that you spread out the assigned stations. So your overall performance as a team is probably going to be lower if, everyone's doing back-to-back stations versus likely the most optimal way to do it would be one person does stations 1 and 5, one person does 2 and 6, 3 and 7, and then 4 and 8. That way you're maximizing everyone's ability to recover in between each of the stations, and they're able to go and give their all when it's their turn in the relay. If you are looking for help building a training plan to train for Hyrox, you can check out my app, Hybrid Strength Fitness. It'll help build the plan custom to your needs, your schedule, and your ability level. And that is linked in the bio in the description if you want